Welcome to Thursday, everyone. It's September 27th today, and joining me once again is Michael Barden. Michael, how are you, my friend? I apologize for the brief delay in getting underway. I've been watching the Kavanaugh hearing, of course, as I'm sure most people are, but we're going to talk today about what's been going on with you. Of course, you've shared your stories with us of being a targeted individual. You've had another meeting since our last conversation. There's some really interesting attention coming to both you and I, in part as a result of our ongoing series here about targeted individuals. What's happening with you, Michael? What can you tell us today?
Well, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm just getting through the day, getting some work done, getting as much work done as possible, and trying to keep researching this phenomenon of targeted individuals and organized stalking and harassment. And I've come up with a couple new things that I wanted to talk to you about, and just go over with how there's some discrepancies between some different organizations and how a lot of people are being falsely identified as delusional as they find out facts.
Right.
So,
before we get to that, let me just remind everybody, Michael, that one of the problems that targeted individuals face, such as yourself, is that business opportunities and work, that's the sort of thing that get targeted first to try to incapacitate you financially. So Michael's got an eBay store, and people watching right now might be noticing the very handsome Air Force hat that Mike is wearing. He runs an eBay store called Hats Around the World, and you can purchase a variety of vintage and hard to find hats. I'm showing the right stuff right here, aren't I?
Yeah, well, I've got other stuff. I just recently listed some cassette tapes, vintage cassettes and CDs. That's an accordion actually from Italy.
Wow.
Size accordion. So that's some of the stuff I do too. Real antiques and collectibles. That one's a pretty good one. I've been putting that one away for a while and let it kind of marinate and gain value a little bit.
This would be a good hat for David Hawkins, RCA, which is now Circo.
Okay. Did he work for them, or?
Well, that's a long story. People should watch Reverse Engineering Crime Scene Investigations with David Hawkins on Patreon. But the point is, there's a lot of different hats here, and if you're looking for a gift for someone, perhaps you could find a unique hat by going to eBay and looking up hats around the world. And of course, people can learn more about Michael and subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'm glad to see the subscribers growing there, Michael. You've broken 2,000. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's funny. It said 2,000 when I log in. It said for like the last 6 months I've had 2,000 subscribers, but then when I go into my dashboard or whatever they call it, it says 1,500. And it's always been this discrepancy with that too, and I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, I actually hit 2,000 now, so that's good.
That's very strange. There's all kinds of weird things going on with YouTube subscribers, YouTube downvotes, YouTube comments. It does seem that cyber harassment is a major component of the targeting that you've been describing, isn't it? Michael? Oh. It's interesting. Michael has frozen. Michael, can you hear me? I tell you, the amount of technical difficulty that is specifically associated with my interviews with Michael is becoming a little bit hard to believe. Michael? Okay, we're going to try to call Michael back. So, this is an interesting aspect of the process. The Skype call is still connected. The timer is still advancing, but Michael is totally frozen. That's quite interesting. Let's see if Michael comes back. So the call is not disconnected. I don't know if people can see this here, but I've got the Skype window, and you can see it's advancing, 5:31, 5:32, but Michael's frozen. So let's try to call Michael back, see if we can get him back on the phone on Skype. Not sure what's going on, but we have heard him tell us that his home there has been targeted by various individuals. And there are certain YouTube channels that think what we're talking about here is ridiculous. Now it says Michael's not online. Oh, maybe he's back now, active now. Let's see if we can get Michael back. It's ringing. No, it says Michael isn't online. I don't know if we're going to be able to get Michael back. Michael had prepared a bunch of interesting information for us. Yesterday, of course, we saw Edward Snowden put out a tweet that Michael and I were going to discuss. We want to talk specifically about the psychological aspects of this targeting and how one of the goals of these organized groups that Michael and I have pointed out, even looking at sections of the FBI website that are advertising these jobs, one of the goals is to break a person down psychologically and get them to act out in a way that can either get them arrested, as was the case with Michael, although I don't think Michael was acting out from the story he described in the videos that he shared. The cops just basically showed up and arrested him. But getting you into a situation where you can be psychologically evaluated and use that mental health evaluation against a person is seemingly one of the goals of this gang stalking and targeting. Something's gone on with Michael's internet connection. It seems that we're unable to reach him. So let me vamp for a little while here and remind everyone that in addition to eBay, oh wait, now Michael says he's good. People can also sign up for Patreon, and you can reach Michael on there. He's at patreon.com/Michael J. Barden. Let me try to connect with him again. He's texting me. There we go. There he is. Okay. Michael.
That was interesting.
It was.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm well. I was just remarking that there seemed to be a really unusual number of outages with you specifically when I interview you, Michael.
Welcome to my life. I'm sorry. It's so aggravating.
No, I'm not aggravated. I find it quite curious and interesting. And, you and I have had some offline conversations about some of the just totally incredulous, I'm incredulous when I watch them because the things they say are not credible, but there are some YouTube channels that seem to be very focused on the conversations that you and I have. If you and I were speaking about nonsense, why would someone make a whole YouTube channel to talk about it?
I'm not sure, and I listened to one of that guy's videos, and I can't even remember his name.
That's fine. We don't have to mention it here.
Brain dumped it, but I listened to one of his videos, and he sounds like a typical perp. He's an insecure guy. He picks out small details about a person and tries to use those little details to put him down instead of responding to facts that we're putting out. And that seems typical with a lot of these people that harass us. They do the same thing. They pick out some non-issue, try to make it an issue, and divert the attention away from what you're presenting. Yes. And that's all that guy's doing. I mean, it's obvious to me. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of watched part one of his videos and ignored him and went on. Yeah, there was some other guy. I can't remember his name.
Well, I believe the guy that you're talking about is sort of a team leader for a crew of people that are operating on the internet to basically take the process that you've described to us, this gang stalking process, this harassment, this persistent harassment process, and to direct it at people like you and I who are using social media channels to alert people to these things. Because if everybody knew about how this stuff worked, it would become much more ineffective. So they're fighting tooth and nail against you, against me, to stop this information from coming out. And it actually goes beyond that. I do believe these individuals that we're discussing are engaged in criminal harassment. And I don't intend to give up until they meet justice in a court and hopefully are thrown in jail for what they've been doing to discourage people. Because right now, the perps that you encounter seemingly being hired from ad postings on the FBI's website or whatever, they see no problem with taking this job. If we start hearing about some of these people going to jail, maybe the perps will think twice before taking that work.
That or just getting these programs defunded, proving that
Yeah.
the program is unconstitutional, and then legally taking that away from them because what they're
Yes.
doing is illegal. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because if they keep funding it, they're going to keep fighting to keep these programs in place
Hmm.
and keep growing the budget each year. You know, if you don't spend the money, you don't get it next year, and you
Right.
know, so on and so on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you raise another good point that we've heard about from Bill Binney and others, which is that, some of these government programs need to make a case for their own existence. So let's say you're a contractor who writes reports to the government about protecting critical infrastructure. You're going to want to create some sort of an incident that makes someone in the government say, hey, we need to hire this contractor to protect our critical infrastructure. So they are coming up with hoaxes and scams and
Or
schemes.
harassing people to the point of acting out and then saying, we need to see this is a bad guy. He
Right.
did this thing, and we need to keep watching these people. See, we caught this bad guy. But when
Exactly.
it's the problem reaction solution paradigm,
The
they're creating
Hegelian dialect. Exactly.
they're creating the issue to verify, to validate their unneeded. I'm sure that some kind of surveillance and really going after real terrorists, there's a need for that, but they're also adding a bunch of people to this list to just keep the budget growing each year, and it's
Right.
criminal. The
Yeah.
Nazi Stasi police, the domestic surveillance program. And
Agreed.
this right here, this is good timing on that. Edward Snowden he said it perfectly. Almost every single targeted individual that read that tweet knew exactly what he was saying on this second one right here. Okay, well, yeah, but so the UK just admitted they were using domestic surveillance, but this one right here that says people are like, what kind of power? The power to always know everything about anyone so you can control the outcome of anything they try to do. That right there is exactly what happens in a targeted individual's life. Everything that you do is controlled and manipulated. Everything you try to do is there are roadblocks thrown in your way.
Right.
You have to try 5-6 times to do something simple like change your phone provider, that over and over and over. And when they have access to every single bit of your information, where you're going, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're purchasing, all of your internet searches, everything, they can form pattern recognition for you.
Yeah.
Know where you're going. We've literally had people, I try not to talk about some of this stuff too much, but we've literally had people waiting in a restaurant that perked us that we hadn't even talked about going to that restaurant before. We got there and there was a guy waiting on his phone, acting weird, doing the typical thing that they do. And we were like, how did they do that one? And I won't even go too far into that, but it's what Edward Snowden is talking about here. This tweet is exactly what's going on with targeted individuals. And the more that I look into this, the more I realize there's most likely 2 or 3 million targeted individuals in the United States, and some of them don't even know they're targeted yet. They just think that life is starting to kind of get weird. People are acting kind of different. They're getting bad service. And they're not quite aware of this targeted individual program. And I don't know what these people that are running this program call it, but it is this. It's a psyop, and that's what he's talking about right there.
Let me offer this, Michael, because, I think everyone's aware that most people are using Facebook and Twitter. A lot of people order stuff from Amazon.com, go shopping at Whole Foods, which is now owned by Amazon.com. And of course, they're encouraging you to, scan your app, you get 10% off, and they want you to join so that they know what you're eating. They know, let's say you go to Whole Foods every single day or every week, and you're always buying, ground beef and milk and whatever. They're not going to bother having perps waiting for you at the vegan restaurant. So one of the things that is able to be done, this targeting and this gang stalking and this harassment, it's been around for quite a while, but it's evolving, and they can use artificial intelligence now to create a profile. Every one of us now are the subject of big data mining. And so there are these programs that can, with a certain degree of accuracy, and I think it's like something between 70 and 90%, depending on what they sample and how, they can predict your behavior. So as I said, if they know you're going to the steakhouse versus the vegan restaurant, you know, they could have X number of people, X number of perps. Oh, here's this guy, go get him. So it's a very, very coordinated system.
You got it 100% perfect. Nailed it on the head. You're exactly right. And I think that it's got to be some kind of computer system that uses a supercomputer that processes all this information and, you know, thinks 1,000 times or 100,000 times faster than we do. So it seems, you know, impossible sometimes, some of the things that they do.
Right.
It's just there's information being processed faster than we can even really understand.
Yeah.
Faster than I can understand.
For sure. So talk to us a little bit, Michael, about what's been happening with your court case. You had some sort of a settlement meeting?
That's actually coming up on October 1st. It's a settlement hearing, and I sit down with the judge, not the judge that has been handling the case, but with another judge that's looking at it from the outside. And I don't know if it matters, but it seems kind of interesting. The judge that was appointed to me is Susan Brenovich, who is married to the state inspector general, and she's been recently appointed to the federal court, I believe. I might even be misspeaking, but by Trump. And I'm hoping that this person has some kind of insight as to what's going on with these domestic surveillance teams and the Stasi police that are going on. So when I do present some of that evidence that I'm being stalked and harassed, you know, under one of these domestic surveillance programs, that she'll actually listen.
Yeah.
And look at some of the footage I have, maybe of the guy pulling the gun out the window, stuff like that. You know, actually listen. I don't know. It might not have anything to do. It might not help me at all. But I did find it kind of interesting who was appointed to me.
There's Judge Brenovich right there during what appears to be a confirmation hearing. Mm-hmm. There's been quite a lot going on with confirmation hearings lately, but we're not going to talk about that too much right now. We're mostly concerned with hearing about this. You know, Michael, as you and I speak, you know, thoughts and things are rolling around in my head. You said there's over 1 million targeted individuals. If what we're proposing is correct, and there is a computer network or some sort of mechanism for processing tons of data and disseminating it to many, many perps around the country, that system would need development and testing, and just by the function of that, there'd be a certain number of people who would be targeted simply because they're testing out the system to see how effective it is.
Beta test.
Yes.
That's what I keep saying over and over is, so say there's 3 million people that are targeted in the United States. That's about 1% of our total population. So if they're doing a beta test, they can test 1% of the population, 1 out of 99 people, you know, and see how this whole program works, how they can manipulate people and control people's lives. And then when they've got it all figured out, roll it out to the rest of the United States. And that's what to the rest of the world.
Yes.
And so that's what the rest of the world, the rest of the United States needs to be thinking about in the future is, hey, I'm next. We're all next. This isn't some science fiction, nonsense, delusional thing. This is something that I need to research. There's more and more information coming out. There's credible people that are talking about being targeted and the types of things that they do to targeted individuals. I mean, these websites that we found, the SSG, we talk about the InfraGard. I mean, they say it right there on their websites that they're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah, and it is. It's I really believe that it's a beta test. You know, targeted individuals, people that are targeted that know about it, and people that are targeted and don't even understand what's going on yet are a beta test for the rest of the world. If the deep state is not if they don't complete taking the deep state out, that's where we're headed. That's where we were headed. If Hillary were elected. And I try not to even talk about politics too much, but I really believe that's where a lot of this came from. Hillary and Obama, the BRAIN Initiative, all of this Stasi.
The what initiative?
The BRAIN Initiative.
What's that?
Oh boy, that's something we should look up. Maybe do a show on the BRAIN. And I'm not the person to explain the entire thing perfectly, but it was brain testing, basically, that Obama funded in, I'm not sure, I can't remember what year it is, but
Wow,
yeah,
it's right here, National Institute of Health.
yeah, the Brain Initiative, and that's what a lot of the people that experience the high technology kind of stalking and harassment, the like the V2K and
What's V2K? Voice to
voice to
cranium?
skull, voice to skull, yeah, the voice of God, where people actually hear voices. And I mean, it's not a hidden technology. There's a building in like New York, I think, or let's see, maybe is it New? No, it's down to. I'll find the video for you and I'll send it to you. But anyway, these people walk underneath the building and they have one of these devices that sends the voice down. And as they're walking under the building, only they can hear the voice in their
Wow,
head.
you got to tell me where that is, and I'm going to go to it.
Yeah, definitely. I will find that for you. But yeah, so there's the V2K that people experience, synthetic telepathy, where you'll get suggestive thoughts. You know, high technology stuff. So,
Michael,
and I won't
you're
even
hitting
start
on
to think.
something huge right here because, I think we're at a point where a lot of people hear targeted individual and they see you and they hear you telling this story. Maybe they think, well, this guy's nuts or he got in trouble and he's trying to make up a story. But when you break it down like this, the way you and I have been doing over several weeks, where we're talking about these different things and we're looking at the websites and everything, and we're looking at the response from this individual that you and I were talking about, there are key times that that individual responds and mobilizes an effort to try to discredit what I'm doing or what a particular guest is doing. And the funny thing is, he's revealing himself because when he becomes so active, he's obviously very interested in trying to shut down what we're doing. So we're just going to keep pressing.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Yeah, and that's typical in my experience of being a targeted individual. The better you do, the more information you put out, the more solid something is that you accomplish, the more that they attack you.
Right.
I hate to even say that because I don't want to discourage other targeted individuals from speaking out and doing videos and explaining their situation, but that's just kind of how it goes in this thing. And you just have to say, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make contact with this certain person, and I just have to be prepared for the counter moves, because that's what you do every single day of your life as a targeted individual. You are thinking about how to counter whatever it is that they're inflicting on you, whether it's your business or your family life, your bills, your vehicle, whatever they're trying to destroy. I mean, I just took my car to, I won't even say the name of the place I took it to. I just took it to get 2 new tires. Somebody had put a screw in my tire at a perfect 90-degree angle, and then a hat sold the next day, but with a baseball team that had a little screw on the front of the hat, these little subtle things. I take my car in. Yeah. I take my car in and get the 2 back tires replaced, and I go to pick it up, and they say, "Oh, your back rim was bent." And I said, "Really? That's funny. It's never been bent. It wasn't bent before I came in here." And I said, "Yeah, we tried to balance it, but we couldn't do it. So when you get on the freeway, it might bounce a little bit." Sure enough, I take my daughter to the batting cages and get up to 70 miles per hour, and my truck's shaking all over the place.
Never was before.
I have that issue before, so that's just one small example of what I'm talking about. What targeted individuals go through. That's something it's got plausible deniability. Well, it could have been bent before you came in here. I don't know what happened, but that's how it was.
Tiny little things where you can't go create a huge big deal over a bent rim, but it's a couple of $100 to replace it. You could get in an accident in the car.
It's I don't know if you've ever read the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu, but they talk about death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes.
And that's what they do. I mean, there's so much behind this. There's so much capital. There's so much. There's funding. There's so much. For
But Michael, I don't want you to feel bad about telling other targeted individuals to stand up and talk about this, because I think you're helping people. You are a pioneer in this regard, because we've heard about gang stalking and targeting before, but you're speaking out about it. Most people are intimidated by it. They don't have the courage, they don't have the resources, and very quickly they get wound down into nothing. But you're resisting. And people can help you do that by going to your eBay store, Hats Around the World, and purchasing a hat. They can get a hat with a screw on it if they want, but don't go sticking screws in Michael's tires.
Yeah, isn't that interesting timing? That the next day after the screw I get the screw in the tire, and then the hat with the screw cells on the front. I don't know what the odds of that are, but I'm thinking it's kind of.
It's definitely coincidental. People can also support you, Michael, by going to patreon.com/Michael J. Barden and joining you there as a monthly sponsor. I think it's going to become increasingly important for people to sponsor Michael to allow him to continue doing this and continue speaking out against the targeting that he's been experiencing. You sent me this website, Michael, the Collective Evolution, and there was a really interesting article here. Why don't you tell us a bit about this?
Well, I just saw this article today, and let's see. It's the targeted individual community is usually the only community that puts out articles about targeted individuals with anything positive. Anytime something goes out in the New York Times or the Washington Post or even Vice twisted their videos about the guy Kieran and Shane Gibbs, they're all negative. And this is one of the first articles that I've seen a mainstream media. Well, I don't know if I can call this mainstream, but somebody that's not inside the targeted individual community do some real research, put some thought into their article, and publish it.
Yeah. Well, let me read this brief to people. It says, here are the facts. The phenomena of targeted individuals is a reality. Individuals are targeted by deep state agencies with a variety of social, physical, and psychological attack tools, including electromagnetic weapons, and it's something that humanity can no longer ignore.
Love that. That is such a huge statement that people don't realize is so important. This is just a really great article.
Yeah, and you're part of this movement, Michael, not just by being targeted, by speaking out about it, because that led you to me, and now you and I together are reaching slightly more people than you were alone. Hopefully people are joining you on patreon.com/Michael J. Barden, watching your videos on there, subscribing to your YouTube channel, getting the word out, and frankly, we're just getting started. So, the message for the people that are targeting individuals like Michael, and me, if I'm being targeted, is that you can keep doing this, but justice is coming. We see that Kavanaugh is being targeted. Brett Kavanaugh is basically being targeted, not in the same way that you are, but here we've got someone who's coming out with these allegations. He gave an incredibly powerful opening statement referring to a daily diary that he had been keeping since he was about 15 or 16 years old that talks about dates and places where he was, camp and things like that. So if the FBI is to investigate this woman's allegations, perhaps we will learn some more about it. I don't mean to go too far off topic, but I was so disturbed by the statement, I forget the senator who said it, but someone who said, everyone has the right to be believed. I'm sorry, that's just not correct or true. You don't automatically have the right to be believed. In fact, you actually have the opposite of that right. When you accuse someone of something, the burden of proof is on the accuser to prove that the person being accused is guilty beyond the shadow of a doubt. You are suffering from this right to be believed. Some guy who stuck a gun at you out the window of his car apparently is exercising his right to be believed because the cops just believed him and threw you in jail. Isn't that right?
That is correct, yes.
No burden of proof. You were not considered innocent until proven guilty. You are getting railroaded. So what, if anything, can people do, Michael, to help you in the lead up to this? It's going to be Monday, your hearing.
Well, that's the meeting that I'm having, and then I go back to court on October 23rd. I don't even know if it's a good idea for me to say what dates I'm going, but oh well. My final date is October 23rd, where I go ahead and either accept the plea deal that they've given me, because I feel like I'm pushed into a corner and there's no other option for me to do that, because I can't really afford to go to a trial. I would have to fire my attorney, and I would have to go with a public defender. I mean, we're month to month right now. Um, there's no way I can come up with that much money, and that's it's discouraging because if I had a few $100,000 to deal with this, I'd probably be in a lot better position than I am right now. But it just kind of shows how our legal system, our justice system, is kind of geared towards folks with some cash.
Well, it's an interesting topic that you bring up. I don't disagree, but see, I think that this targeting program, I liked what you were saying before about beta testing, because, we've spoken to David Hawkins about the kinetic social media protection appliance, which is basically a computer program that monitors social media, etc., and you could find out a lot about someone from their social media. You could make some broad determinations. I mean, if someone has annual photos of them going to Hawaii or something like that, and pictures of them with their new Mercedes, you could presume that that person has a pretty good job, and maybe the targeting program for them isn't the same as the targeting program for you. When they see you posting videos about getting your tires fixed and having a bent rim be a problem, I think for a lot of people, a $400 or $500 repair to their car is a big problem, but if you're someone with several $100,000 in the bank, it's not. So they might need I'm looking at the approach of how do you ruin the life of somebody like Brett Kavanaugh, who obviously could fix a tire quite easily, versus how do you ruin the life of Michael Barden, and it's a different application of, the methods.
Each targeted individual has a custom program that's specifically designed for them. They take years to profile the targeted individual, make a dossier, giant folder. I'm sure most of your viewers know what a dossier is.
Yeah.
and have this giant file on you, whether it's digital or paper or both, and learn every single thing about you that makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, everything, all of your emotions, how you react to different situations. And once they're done profiling you, then they kick in the targeting, and they start using all of that information to psychologically torture you and to interrupt your life and put a wall up so you cannot succeed, you cannot move forward, and you can't achieve any of your goals. And that's one of the things that they go after the most, the things that you want to happen the most, your most passionate goals, the things you love the most, the people you love the most, your pets. They go after your family. They go after what you care about the most. And that's not just me saying that. Because it's happened to me personally. But I hear this over and over and over. Targeted individuals are just everything that they love in their life is attacked. And you can't see it happening. In the news, you know the saying, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
So when somebody's not bloody or bruised, people are just going to pass by and say, "Oh, they're having a rough day. That person's overreacting." And it's why they call it no-touch torture. It's a silent kill. People can't move through this. A lot of people, as you know, probably commit suicide.
That's right.
I've lost track of how many people that I've been on my friends list in Facebook groups, Twitter groups, that have just killed themselves in the last year.
Wow.
I've lost track.
Wow. So you're saying 10 people or something?
No, more like, Kathy, how many people do you think? There's a list. I can probably 20 that I have heard of.
Wow. That's shocking.
In the last year. But yeah, in the TI community, when somebody passes away of the suicide or cancer is a big one too in the TI community, everybody shares it. And so Janet Murray was one. She passed away. She was really digging into the targeted individual phenomenon, writing a lot of good journalism on it. And we're still not 100% for sure. Nobody's got any kind of facts from it, but she either killed herself or she was murdered. One of the two. She died either way.
It's very educational for me to listen to you say all this stuff because, people, I think, somehow presume because I have a YouTube channel that I should know everything about everything and any of these topics that are sort of outside the mainstream news, I should know about, but I don't necessarily, and I can't say that I knew very much about this targeted individual community before I got into creating videos on the internet, and certainly I'm learning much more about it as you and I speak. I wonder though, do they take years to profile someone, or could they collapse that time frame into a couple of weeks or months if they had many people researching a person? Like we might remember an individual with the last name Chavez for many months was on a dedicated campaign of, researching me and putting out information, frequently false information. But I wonder if that wasn't an effort to learn about me, where I live, what I do, how to try to find some weak spot to press on.
Yeah, definitely. I think what the answer to that is, they can do anything they want. If they want to target somebody and within a short period of time, they can add additional assets and exactly like you're saying, and get that person targeted. They might not know as much as the person that's been unaware and been targeted for years, and they've been surveilling it for years. But I'm sure they can do anything they want. I mean, with the amount of freedom they have, that they enjoy, to look at all of our information, I mean, I'm sure they could even use some kind of algorithm, some kind of computer program to figure out everything. Search Jason Goodman. It searches everything you've ever done on the internet, everything, every phone call you've ever had, compiles a list of what you like, what you don't like, things you do, and it probably wouldn't take them too long with the technology that we have now.
What about something low tech, like maybe, I don't know, sending someone as a false friend to become maybe a business partner and infiltrate my home and live here for 4 months and try to gain my trust, so we share personal information, then distort aspects of that personal information to spread lies constantly?
Yeah, that's standard operating procedure for these people. They send a business partner, they send a love interest, they send somebody that's an actor that you. I won't even go into that too much, but almost every single targeted individual that I have listened to has had some kind of instance where somebody was sent to them posing as a friend or a coworker, a business partner, something that turned out to be a perp that just under the radar was doing everything they could to pull the rug out from underneath of them and act like they were helping.
Right.
It really is part of their psychological operation.
Maybe that person would even make public YouTube videos praising me, so that all of the 50,000 people that watch his videos will think he's a great guy, and me resisting him or calling him out for being a perpetual and habitual liar would be something that people would look down on me for. But let's focus back on your case. You sent me this photograph. I've enhanced it a bit in Photoshop so people can see it more easily. So this guy, he looks like he's in front of you and the gun is pointing out the window. Describe exactly what happened, how you got this photo, what we're looking at here.
This is after the guy, he started questioning me. He rolled down his window, started asking me some questions like, what's up? Because I was just, I wasn't filming inside of his car. I was reading the side of his vehicle so I could get the information off the side, if I could see if I could give it to a private investigator. And told him I was filming some gang stalkers, told him it might be one. He called me. I hate doing this, but he called me a faggot ass. I reacted to it because I was just about to make a U-turn. I reacted to it. I swerved back over. I caught back up to him. I flipped him off, and I yelled, "Fuck you," which I shouldn't have done that.
But they're trying to, it's childish, but they're trying to get you to respond.
Exactly. And I did a couple videos on the 911 call and then this guy's statement to the officer. And during his statement, I can't get this part out of my head. He says to the officer, after the officer says, "Would you like to assist in prosecuting?" The guy was like, "F yeah, that's the whole reason they're trying to get rid of him." And
wait a minute.
Yeah, it's on one of my videos.
What's the whole reason that they're trying to get rid of you?
It's the whole reason they're trying to get rid of him. And it makes sense the way he answered that police officer. I should have found that. Maybe I'll find it next time we do a video. I'll find the clip and.
Let's focus on that and try to unravel this mystery. But of course, people can go and subscribe to the Michael Barden channel here on YouTube and review Michael's evidence and watch some of his videos. I think that people who are concerned about this really should be supporting Michael either by purchasing a hat from his eBay store or simply by sponsoring him on patreon.com/Michael J. Barden. Yeah, that evidence is interesting. So tell us again what he said, because I don't quite understand it even when you explain it.
Well, let me reiterate too.
Yeah.
I want to reiterate that this happened on January 4th. 3 weeks before this incident happened, I questioned a police officer about targeted individuals and gang stalking, and it was a pretty good video, if I don't say so myself. I kind of caught her in a lie, gang stalking me, and she even admitted she knew what targeted individuals were and everything. I uploaded that video, and this incident that we're talking about happened almost exactly 3 weeks after that. So I just like to keep reminding people of that fact, that I'm not trying to get these videos out because I got in trouble. I started doing the videos first, and then they arrested me 3 weeks later. Well, not after I started doing videos. I started doing them in November. So yeah, it takes quite a while to explain this whole thing, but basically I'm driving down the street trying to get some information off the side of this guy's truck. It says ATC Environmental or something, Bioenvironmental.
It's very hard to read in this photo.
Yeah, I've got a lot better screenshots than that one. But like when we're at the convenience store, right, you can see it clearly. So I'm driving next to him, and I'm just reading out loud. I've got my windows down. I'm reading out loud so I can hear it on my camera. I'm filming. I'm reading it out loud. He rolls down his window and he says, "What's up?" We exchange a few words. I'm telling him I'm documenting some gang stalkers. He says, "What's that?" I said, "Somebody you may be." And then he goes, "Oh, gang stalking. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that." So we went from "I haven't heard of that" to "I've heard of that" in a matter of seconds. Then he calls me a fag. Right as I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this guy. I'm just getting ready to make a U-turn, and he calls me a fag, and it's 4:50 in the morning. I still hadn't had any of my coffee yet, and I just reacted, and I got back over. I yelled at the guy, and he pulls his gun out of the window, and I turn around and start driving back home. And then the guy followed me to my house.
So you took this photo. He pulls the gun out. You stepped on the brakes or something, and he pulled up?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Like, I guess you stepped on the brakes. I mean, somebody pulls a gun out of a window of a car.
I hit the brakes quick, and thankfully there was an exit to my left where I could just get right over and make that U-turn legally. I didn't have to hop the center divider or anything to get away, which I would do if somebody's coming after me with a gun. But he pulled that out, and it looked like he turned right. I quit. As soon as he did that, I just went into "I'm getting out of here" mode. Made that U-turn and just headed back home.
And you've told us that he followed you to your neighborhood where the police were there. And so the police asked if this guy, who you somehow identified he's a retired police officer.
Police at my house. I just want to make that clear. I never saw any police in front of my house. This guy followed me to my house and had these yellow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. He had these yellow and white rotators that he had turned on, so I couldn't even see him. It was blinding me. And then he started pulling his truck forward like he was going to come after me, and I got in my truck and took off after him.
But then when he followed you to your neighborhood, the police showed up sometime after that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's a conversation that you overhear between this perp who's just pulled a gun on you and the police. And since this happened, you've determined that the perp guy, the truck guy, is himself a retired police officer.
Correct. Yeah, he was a former Marine Corps, I guess, and then also a prior police officer. And I haven't done a search on him or records request or anything. It's probably a good idea for me to do that.
Do we know his name?
His name is Russell Roberts, and that's public information, so it's not me putting his name out or anything. It's available through FOIA request. Which, by the way, speaking of FOIA request, I did a FOIA request over a month ago, last month on the 17th, for these police body video cameras, which have not released to me. My attorney did a discovery request for everything that they had. The only evidence video that they gave me was them unlocking the mailboxes over here for some reason. None of the original police footage from them driving or anything through the neighborhood was given to me. I've done the FOIA request on all of that footage, on all of their communications, the 911 call, everything. The only thing I've got from my attorney was the 911 call and then the statement given by the plaintiff.
But take us back to this conversation between Russell and the police. The police are asking Russell if he'd like to assist in arresting you?
Yeah, I guess that's how they say it here.
Why would they assist?
I don't know. I think that's just the terminology that they use here. Would you like to assist in prosecuting? That's what they asked me when this guy attacked us in the Fry's grocery store parking lot. The cop asked me, "Would you like to assist in prosecution?" And I was like, "I don't. What do you mean? Do I
prosecution or arrest?
Go to the guy's house with you and
yeah,
help
that
you get it?"
seems weird. That seems weird. Is this him? Do you recognize this picture?
That does not look like him.
Okay, it's another guy with the same name in Arizona, so
Yeah,
we got to be careful.
Yeah, he's a little bit bigger guy, 6'1", 6'2". He's got a mustache. Kind of reminded me of Farva from Super Troopers. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
So the cops asked him if he'd like to assist in arresting you, which seems dangerous.
Yeah. So, and then he says, almost says, "Fuck yeah." He said, "Oh, if yeah, that's the whole reason they're trying to get rid of him." And then he stops himself.
But
and then
what's the reason? I don't understand. What's the reason?
Exactly. What is the reason? What is it? What is the reason that he is speaking of? And why does he keep saying we're behind him when he? And he also states clearly in this statement that he was by himself. The cop said, "So were you by yourself? Was anybody with you?" "Yeah, I was by myself." But yet in his statement he kept saying, "Yeah, we were."
The 911 call.
What's that?
In the 911 call.
Yeah, in the 911 call and in his statement, he kept saying "we." You know, like what? I'm pretty sure that refers to the group of people that he was with. The other 3 or 4 people that might have been working with him, I'm not sure. I can't prove it. They've probably got their national security letters saying they're stopping domestic terrorists or something.
Well, I think it would be useful, Michael, maybe for our next video, for you to put together some information on this guy Russell. I'd be very curious to know more about him and what he said. Maybe we'll pull that excerpt, we'll play it, and we'll pour over it a bit. Of course, you'll have had your settlement meeting, which is strange. They're settling it. I'm concerned about this notion of you taking a plea deal. I think somebody has told me if you're innocent, you should never do that.
Yeah, as a TI, judging from repetition in the past, getting screwed over on pretty much everything, it's really tough to take that risk.
But the question is it a bigger risk to take the plea deal? I don't know.
I'm not. And see, that's one of the things that wakes me up in the middle of the night. What do I do? You know, I know what the right thing is to do. I know what.
Well, even this is psychological trauma they're putting you through. You're worrying about this rather than.
Yeah, 100%. And when you go through the jail system too, they're messing with you while you're in there. When you're going through, even in we literally got directed conversation, street theater at the courthouse, in the courtroom, by people that were, visiting for somebody that was in custody or something like that, and they were saying weird stuff, focusing it towards us. I mean, it's constant psychological torture. These people constantly messing with you. It's like this group of kids on the playground that are throwing rocks at the kid that can't fight back, and they just constantly do it. So you either freak out or, yeah.
No, it's funny. I mean, you're describing exactly the behavior of these moronic individuals on the internet who just are constantly making videos accusing me of things that aren't true. And I think their goal is to, as you say, to wear me down psychologically, to get me upset, to get me to respond to them, to distract me from the work of speaking to people like you and other people who can actually bring valuable information to the crowdsource community. That's what they don't want, these individuals. So it's interesting to see how this targeting straddles the real world and the cyber world.
Yep. And then too, once you figure it out, they call you delusional. You figure out their program, you figure out their standard operating procedures. I know I use that word all the time, but it was a big one in the Air Force. And then you complain about that, and it provides some evidence, and then they have you take this MMPI test, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, and there's several questions in this test that say, are you being followed? I know who's responsible for my downfall. There's so many weird questions in there, but there's
Did
so
you
many
take that
that.
test?
What's that?
Did you take that test?
I did, yeah. My attorney talked me into getting a psychological evaluation. I paid $5,000 for the psychological evaluation.
What?
I took this NMPI test, which I've taken it 2 or 3 times. I took it. I interviewed with the California State Department of Corrections a while back in my maybe late 20s, and I took that test then. And it's like 600-page test. I mean, it's 600-page, 600-question test, and they ask you all these different questions, and some of them correlate perfectly with the targeting program. So, like, when they say, "Are you being followed?" Well, you're literally being followed, and there's the website that shows the SSG, the Secret Surveillance Group, does that. But if you say, "Yes, I'm being followed," they say, "Ooh, nobody would ever follow you. You're delusional."
Right.
And then they give you this stamp for society to where if you're marked delusional and you've been, I don't even know what they call it. I haven't got to that point yet. But that's what they were also asking for me to do when I go and if I take this plea deal, is to go to psychological evaluations.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
think you need to be
explaining
very
stuff.
careful, because once you start making deals with them, then your rights and the law go out the window. You're adhering to a deal. Like,
Yeah, and I can't revisit the case. I can't go back after these people.
I do not think you should take a plea deal, Michael. I think that's the way they're trying to. You see, I look at the situation where a civil suit was brought against me, and obviously the jeopardy is much greater in a criminal case because they could stick you in jail. But it's clear to me that the goal was to intimidate me into settling these suits or to get me to stop doing Crowdsource the Truth. They want to tie up my money with lawyers. They want to convince people that I'm being paid by Mossad or the FBI or InfoWars or whoever. None of those people have ever paid me anything. And they just want to create this sort of general sentiment that people shouldn't send money to support Crowdsource the Truth. They don't want people to support you. You've got to make the decision for yourself, but I'm fearful of you accepting this plea deal because in my view, that would be the same as me having settled these 2 lawsuits, which I now have effectively knocked out of the box. You should maybe speak to Judge Posner, who's got a center for pro se litigants. I did an interview with the judge with Jared and Elizabeth Beck, and perhaps that pro se litigant center could help you. I say, you know what? It's like playing blackjack. If you play by the rules that the dealer plays by, you seem to do better. So do what they do. Delay it. Do whatever you can to make the hearing happen later. Try to find some help from these pro se centers. I'm going to have a guest on next week who succeeded in a pro se trial. I think you got to avoid the plea deal. I think they're trying to box you into a corner to force you to accept a plea deal. And look at everything that you've told me. The lawyer tricked you into taking this psychological evaluation. The lawyer is sort of maybe encouraging you to take this plea deal.
From day one.
I don't think you should.
I don't think I should either. And it feels like I never got any kind of, not head start, but I mean, from the time this started, I was spinning my wheels already.
What's the best way for people to contact you, Michael? If there is a lawyer out there right now who's listening, who wants to help you, or someone who wants to help you financially, what's the best way for someone to contact you if they don't want to buy a hat from Hats Around the World on eBay, or if they don't want to sponsor you on patreon.com/Michael J. Barden? What's the best way for someone to contact you to help with this?
I think just through Twitter or Facebook. I don't know if I should give out my personal.
Don't give out anything you don't want to give out. I'll show your Twitter page for sure, and then because I know there's got to be people out there, first of all, who are targeted themselves or feel that they may be, and just people who know that this isn't right. This isn't the way that things should go. People shouldn't be making videos on YouTube disparaging other people for no good reason.
It's part of their slander campaign, which that guy was clearly doing. The guy that you told me about. There's another guy making videos about me too. He even put my name and actually Robert Rivera, who I look up to. That guy. He's man. I well, we'll talk about him later too, but he's a targeted individual, and he does a lot of good research and puts out a lot of good videos on a lot of the programs that I've talked to you about, where I get some of my information.
I think what you're doing is very important, Michael. You are going to be a role model for people who are being intimidated. And I think you're going to help everybody rise above all this. And I think a key to that is you staying out of jail. And I think a key to that is not taking the plea deal. I mean, you even said there were already tricks that you were seeing in that plea deal. Isn't that right?
Yeah. When I was told there'd be no prison time if I take the plea deal, but then I go in there and they say, well, there could be 6 months to a year of jail time.
No.
To me, that's the same thing. I'm behind, there's some bars in front of me.
Well, not only that, once you're in jail, doesn't it become much more easy for them to have somebody start a fight with you in jail? Now you're in jail for 3 years for fighting, and you get moved to a penitentiary, or some screw up in the paperwork and you're in federal prison.
I would go to a penitentiary because they've charged me with aggravated assault with a firearm, so I'd go to a penitentiary with murderers and rapists and all of those folks.
Michael, you can't go there.
I don't want to go there, buddy.
Yeah. No plea deal. I'm trying to bring up your Twitter. You see how slowly this is operating, right? Okay.
Yeah. Mine. Yeah. We've been having a lot of issues today as well.
So people who want to contact Michael directly, hopefully you're not going to be experiencing the kind of slowdown, despite having 300 megabit per second internet. It's taking like 5 minutes to bring up a Twitter page, which is really interesting. Here we go. Okay. So people can get on there. They can follow you at Michael Barden 8, and you can send a direct message to Michael here on Twitter. And if you have any advice, or if you'd like to help Michael, you can reach him there on Twitter. Of course, people can sponsor Michael's Patreon channel by going to patreon.com/Michael J. Barden, and you can also watch all of his videos on his YouTube channel. He is Michael Barden on YouTube, and he's got many videos documenting the crowd stalking and talking about these secret surveillance groups that are openly advertised on the FBI website and quite obviously operating among us. Michael, in the last few minutes, is there something you'd like to leave our audience with before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about these billboards. Actually, at the banner on the top of my page there, you see that billboard.
Yes.
And we wanted to thank Ella Free. Ella Free is one of the talk show hosts that does a targeted individual show. Romola D is one. But Ella Free got a donation, and it got some other donations, but it got one big donation to do these billboards. And this is actually, Kathy and I drove around town and took photos of these billboards. She just got 3 of these put up here in Phoenix.
Wow.
So for the general public to see it, when they're driving by, one of them's right by downtown Phoenix, one of them's kind of towards the airport, and then there's one in Apache Junction. And so there's also one of these on the 405, I believe, and then there's one, where are the other ones? Canada on a railway system. So this is a really good, Chicago, they have these going up. So I just wanted to talk about those billboards and thank Ella for doing that to help try to get the word out. When you have a billboard, it kind of shows some legitimacy.
Right.
Like, oh, hey, these guys aren't crazy. They figured out how to get some billboards all over the United States.
Well, it's not just that. It lets people know, I guess, freedomfortargetedindividuals.org is her website. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's her. She has her hands in a lot of pies. She keeps really busy. She's one of the board members for Targeted Justice. She does this. She does her talk show, and she does another talk show also, I believe. But yeah, she's a. When you say that I'm one of the pillars in the targeted individual community, I don't always think of myself as that. I kind of think of some of these other people like Ella Free and Romola D, Karen Melton Stewart from the NSA, Gerald Sosby from the FBI, and even Kevin Shipp. He doesn't say, he doesn't focus on I'm a targeted individual. But some of the stuff that he talks about, he's clearly targeted.
Right.
People breaking into his house in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
Right.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is, and he's doing tremendous work. But you see, what you've just said that's really resonating with me is that the billboard, it's not that it's showing people that everyone's organized enough to get a billboard. There's so many people who haven't even heard about this. Part of the way this program is able to succeed is that Most people don't even know that it exists. So the
It's not
first
something
step,
you just wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to look up
right,
organized stalking or something you kind
right,
of come across. You have to Google something like white cars following me or, home break-ins, and then maybe something might pop up like that. But just for the general public, I mean, who would think something like this exists? It
right.
sounds absurd. Absurd. It is.
And
So
keeping it that way, keeping it so that even talking about it sounds absurd, is a
yeah,
big part of what the people perpetuating this system want to do, which is exactly why the videos made by that seemingly mentally disturbed individual who is saying that you and I are obviously ridiculous for saying this. That's why he's making those videos, because he wants as many people as possible for as long as possible to perceive that what you and I are talking about can't possibly be true.
yeah, it's a psychopathic narcissist.
He
Standard.
is.
Yeah, that's what these people are. And I really, I hadn't gotten into psychology a lot, but I've learned a lot about it in the last year and how, a psychopathic narcissist works. And that's what these groups of people are. Not every single one of them that's on the, neighborhood watch group, they think they're just looking out for terrorists. The people that really operate these, the handlers, the people that
Right.
put the thought into the kind of torture, they
Right.
are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Because they'll do anything that they can to destroy somebody's life to further their own agenda or their paycheck or whatever their motivation is. And they are bad, bad people. And I'm hoping that there's a lot of them on this huge indictment list, the 51,000 indictments. I'm really hoping that a lot of the handlers and a lot of the people that are really responsible for some of these programs are on that list.
Yeah.
And uh,
Now, Michael, is Arizona for some reason a hotbed of targeting?
it seems to be. There seems to be certain states where targeting is more, what's the word, prevalent.
Or maybe
And
that's
just
the beta testing site.
yeah, and they seem to be Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, Illinois. Which one am I missing? But anyway, there's certain states where it just seems like the targeting and the gang stalking is way worse. Georgia seems to be a bad one too.
Huh.
From all of the community speaking out, there just seems to be more targeted individuals in certain areas.
Well, Michael, next week, let's schedule another interview soon, and perhaps you can, prepare some of that 911 call, and you and I will sort out a sort of an organized conversation about specifically what that guy was saying, what's going on with your hearing with the judge.
Yep.
If anyone's watching who can, sorry?
So yeah, that'll be after my meeting when I talk to you next. So see how that goes.
You should arrive at your own decision, but it feels to me like the plea deal is not a good deal.
Yeah, it sucks. Put it technically speaking, it's I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm in a conundrum. There seems to be no good decision.
Well,
and
I hope between now and October 1st, people will choose to go to patreon.com/Michael J. Barden and help support Michael. We're close to the end of the month here, so even just a few dollars, we've got several thousand people who are sure to see this video, and this is a worthwhile cause. Michael, I want to thank you for joining me again today. I want to thank you for raising my awareness of all this stuff. We're going to keep looking into this, and I wish you the best of luck at this hearing on Monday. Stay positive. I think things are going to go your way.
I'm hoping so, and I really appreciate the help and get the word out. Even if I end up getting screwed here in this case, all of the work that we've put into this now, if something happens to me, there might be something good that can happen down the road. And I hate to look at it that way. I'm hoping for the best, expecting the worst, hoping for the best, and I appreciate you helping me with that.
It's my pleasure, and try to stay positive. I'm gonna focus on the best outcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael
I appreciate
Barden, my guest right now. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to tune in to patreon.com/crowdsource the truth or patreon.com/Kevin_ship with 2 P's. Tonight at 7, we've got the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp. I'll see everybody then.